I'm not entirely sure if it's working, but let me go ahead and hit play. Oh, okay. It is being live streamed.
All right, so we're good to go.
You're good to go. Let me let in a few more folks here. And you are now ready to go. Thanks, Chip.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chip Zimmer. I'm with the Kentucky Division of Water, and I'll be your guide to the August edition of the Kentucky Monthly Climate Perspective on Drought Hydrologic Conditions. This is hosted by the State Climatologist Office for Kentucky, which is a division of the Kentucky Climate Center at Western Kentucky University. And you can see the list of people that work with us to put this presentation together, including Matt Dixon at the UK Ag Weather Center and Jerry Brodsky at the Kentucky Climate Center. All right, so just some general information. I said this is brought to you by the Kentucky Climate Center at WKU. And it's done in partnership with the National Integrated Drought Information System and coordination with the Midwest Drought Early Warning System. And like I said, it reflects contributions of many partners throughout the Commonwealth. The next webinar will be September 7th, first Thursday of the month at 2 p.m., 1 p.m. Central Time. And this is being recorded and it's being live streamed on the Kentucky Climate Center YouTube channel and will also be available to watch afterwards as well. And in the background there is a cornfield that is at the Fulton County Mesonet Station. Outline, same as always. We're going to be looking at recent conditions, impacts, outlooks, and then quick summary, and then answer any questions we have. You can kind of see the what we're going to be talking about here, a little foreshadowing. Top picture is from Marshall County from July 19th. You can see it is raining and there's standing water in the fields. Below that's from the Mesonet station at the WKU farm. That's actually from the day before on July 18th, and you can see a shelf cloud coming in from an incoming thunderstorm complex. So looking here, this is the 7-day estimated precipitation through August 1st, though it doesn't include today. We've had some more rain today. You can see typical convective thunderstorm patterns for the week. You see some places who got in some rain, especially over the Nicholas Harrison area there, got a lot of rain. And some places that got little to none. Looks like Woodford County was missed out on it. But the whole Lexington, Louisville area kind of just a little bit of rain. But like I said, this is just over the past week. And like I said, it doesn't include stuff since midnight. So you can see here we've had some rain today. Fulton County Mesonet Station picked up 4.75 inches of rain today. That's a lot. Luckily, they were not the big target for the July 19th flooding. That was over just a little bit further east over Graves County. It was the area that got hit most. So, but they got their fair share this time around. So I'm sure there is at least some minor flooding going on there today. Elsewhere, over Henderson County, Meade County also picking up some good amounts of rain. It looks like a big area going south into the kind of west central Kentucky area, getting in on some decent rains. I know over in Georgetown, it's just been a kind of a dreary, steady rain today. It's pretty nice for early August, much better than it being super hot outside. Looking at the 30-day radar estimates, you can see obviously out there in the purchase area, you can see where that heavy rain fell earlier or last month. You can see a pocket of 10 to 15 inches of rain across Ballard, Carlisle and Graves County. That was where the bullseye was. Elsewhere, you see also again that bullseye up in Carlisle, or the city of Carlisle is what I'm thinking of. It's Nicholas and Harrison counties. And then there's some places down around Lake Cumberland. Didn't see very much rain the past 30 days, only 1 to 2 inches. But again, this was July, lots of convective thunderstorm activity. So you have places that got hit and some places they got missed, but everybody got in on at least some rain. Expand that out to 60 days, and you can see the past 6 have been very wet. June was a very wet month. Again, if you look at the purchase area, you're still in that 10 to 15 inch range. So a lot of, they were actually in a pretty good drought until that rain hit. So didn't have a lot of rain in June compared to the rest of the state, where again, it was pretty wet. You see that, like I said, the tan areas there are all 15 inches of rain, which is a pretty good amount for a 60-day. You see a couple bullseyes of orange, which is 15 to 20 inches. Now the dark green areas where the pockets were a little drier, you're still talking 6 to 8 inches of rain, which is a good healthy amount for a 60-day period. So really everybody got in on some good rains over the past 60 days, which is what we like to see. Go out to 90 days. If the colors have changed, but that legend hasn't, we're still the top is at 20 to 25, and there's only a few pockets. So, and what that's really showing is May was very dry. So, really most of our rain over the past 90 days fell in the past 60 days. So, it was much coming out of a pretty dry spring. It was good to see. It was kind of getting worried that we were going to be getting into a pretty widespread severe drought, and Mother Nature flipped the switch and turned the rain back on. So that was a welcome sight. Now looking the maps here, the 30, 60, 90 day departure from normal. You can see over the past 30 days, do see some yellows in there. It's been a little dry in places across the southern part of the state, and also up kind of the that's the gateway area, kind of basically along the Mountain Parkway area there in 64. But you go over to the 60-day period, everybody has been either at or above normal. The really being down there right along the Virginia and Kentucky border down there in the mountains. And you go back to 90 days, you start to see some of those pockets of dryness show up, because like I said, we were dry in May. So, but just a small departure. We're only talking 1 to 2 inches below normal. So not bad over a 90-day period. And then lots of wet areas, especially West Central and the purchase area. Now, for July, Kentucky averaged 6.17 inches of rain, which is 1.78 inches above normal. And if you look at that 30-day map, you're like, are you sure? I know that, there's a lot of rain in Western Kentucky, but, were we really above normal? And I'll show you a slide here in just a second to show that that is actually correct. It ranked as the 20th wettest July on record. So kind of up there. And for when we add June in, looking at the first 2 months of the summer, we had 10.36 inches of precipitation so far this summer, which is 1.71 inches above normal, and the 9th wettest June and July on record. So very welcome wetness after a dry start to the summer, or a dry start to the growing season. So what we were looking at before was the 30-day, which, since we are already into the beginning of August, was cutting off the first 3 days of July. And the first 3 days of July, we saw some precipitation. So when you add that in and just look at July 1st to July 31st, you can see most areas in the state were at or above normal precipitation for the month of July, other than this small area down here in southeastern Kentucky, which was just barely below normal for the past 30 days. So less than 1 inch below normal. So That's where we get that little bit of extra rain. It fell then, and that's how we can say that we were above normal for the month of July when you throw in those first 3 days in there. Temperature wise, been pretty close to normal for July. This week before last, we had our first really good shot of summertime heat, and even then we really didn't get up temperature wise to get up too terribly high. Now we had dew points close to 80 degrees in some places, so it felt just miserable outside. But all in all, we're too terribly hot. You can see the average for the state in July was 77 degrees, which is a little over half a degree above normal. And you look at that map there, other than a couple of tiny pockets, everybody was within 1 degree of normal for the month. Looking at your minimum temperatures, a little higher. That's especially along the I-64 corridor. Again, with that high humidity, you tend to have temperatures don't sink down quite as low. And looking at your maximum temperatures, again, close to normal, just one little pocket down in southeast Kentucky. So overall, pretty good considering that a lot of places in July, not just in the US, but in the world, were extremely hot. Just saw day to day that showed that July was the hottest. This July was the hottest month on record for any month in recorded history. So and it wasn't even close. I believe it was like 0.3 degrees Celsius above the next month. So I'm sure you've heard out what was going on out in the desert Southwest with Phoenix breaking all types of records. They were having people were falling on pavement and burning themselves and having to go to the hospital for burns from just touching catching themselves on the pavement. It was so hot. They had heat problems in Southern Europe and China and India, even Argentina, which is in its wintertime down there, and they were still having heat problems. So all in all, we kind of lucked out, and I'll take the average July temperatures compared to when everybody else was warm. If you take into June for the first 2 months of summer, we're actually 0.6 degrees Fahrenheit below normal. June was pretty cool around here, so kind of averaged it out, and we're still a little below. So it's been a cool. I mean, still warm, it's still hot because it's Kentucky. We're going to have some warm temperatures, but all in all, not too bad of a summer. Looking at the U.S. Drought Monitor, you can see for the most part, Kentucky is really almost completely drought free. We got a little bit, and we'll zoom in here in a second. We can see a lot of drought out in the Midwest, just to the west of us, and also in Texas and across the northern tier states. And the Ohio Valley, really, other than over in Indiana and southern Illinois, not too much drought. Just some little pockets up in the mid-Atlantic states, and also kind of down there in the eastern foothills of the Appalachians. Zoom in on Kentucky, you see just some D0s on the edges there. You can see a little moderate drought in the Union, Henderson County area. That area just got over, 1.5 inches of rain today. So that's going to help maybe get rid of that. And then we got the little area down here around Black Mountain. A very tiny area, extends over to Virginia a little bit. It's one of those where if you look at, we'll look at stream flows here in a minute, but the Poor Fork of the Cumberland River up in this area is doing pretty good in normal flows, but Martin's Fork down in this area, very low. So it's really just a little watershed that's really getting hammered right now. Not surprising when you have big mountains down there, rain shadows and all types of fun stuff going on. So just pockets of dryness down there. Looking at the change map, you can see, excuse me, While we do have a lot of drought still in the Midwest, you can see there's been a lot of improvement over the past 4 weeks. Really until you get up into Minnesota and stuff, where you do see some degradation and up across the upper tier. And then again down in Texas in the desert Southwest, you got this interesting swirl pattern going on down here in the middle of Texas. I'll have to go and look at and see what's going on down there, because that's kind of interesting how it was drawn out there like that. Over on the eastern half of the U.S., lots of improvements in the mid-Atlantic. They were in a drought earlier this year, and that's seen a lot of improvement. And then some pockets of dryness showing up there in the eastern Appalachians. And zooming in, you see lots of improvements in Kentucky. 1 to 2 classes of improvements. Again, a lot of this over in the purchase area occurred after the big rains last month. And then you can see the degradation there in Harlan County there. 2 classes where there is moderate drought now. Looking at stream flows and soil moisture. For the most part, we're pretty good on soil moisture. I think this map up top is overestimating the dryness a little bit. And if you look at the percent short to very short, it has gone up since last week, 22%. The rains today will probably help bring that back down. And looking at stream flows, 7-day average, you see some dry pockets, especially down in the Lake Cumberland area. Nothing too concerning at this. You do see those reds down there in Harlan County. That's what I was referring to. The Martins Fork area, very low stream flow. So that's what we've been watching. If you go out to the 28-day average, then lots of green, looking pretty good. And then you see the black and dark blues out in the purchase where it's picking up on those high flows I had in July from the rains. And you can still see those dark reds down there in Harlan County. A little closer look at soil moisture with the some of the mesonet stations. First one's Grays County, where that was ground zero for the rains in July. And you can see, like I said, they were in a drought before the flooding event on July 19th, but not too much. You can see they were getting some precipitation, and you can see that normal pattern. Anytime during the growing season, you get rain, the 2, 4, and 8-inch soil moistures jump up, and then they go back down as the plants use up that moisture. And so you get that roller coaster effect, and that's normal. What you really want to pay attention to are the 20 and 40 lines, the red and yellow lines. Those are deep soil moisture. They don't bounce around as much. And you see they were slowly coming down throughout the summer, but doing pretty good. And you can see they jumped up after that rain event. And you see basically they reset. They're now sitting at where they were at the beginning of May. So when you still have good soil moisture at the beginning of August, that deep, you're in good shape. And that's what we want to see. Union County, you can see the drought out there. They were a little than they were in, and you can see that in June, how low those soil moisture levels got. But again, if you look at this deeper soil moisture, they stayed pretty consistent. The 20 was dropping a little bit. And then we got into July, and you can see they've gotten several rain events and have really bolstered those soil moisture levels. Down to bottom, Grays County, you can see that May dryness a lot better down there. And you can see once we got into June, just repeated rain events has really brought those soil moisture levels back up. And the same thing with Clinton County. You can see some dryness there late May, early June. And really just, again, rainfall event after rainfall event throughout the summer. And so, again, good soil moisture levels. So, again, there are probably some areas where topsoil is a little dry, but all in all, we're really as far as soil moisture goes, I think for most part of the state, we're in pretty decent shape for early August. Storm reports. Obviously, it's been a very busy month. You see lots of flooding indications down there in the Purchase, and also lots of wind damage, because those were severe thunderstorms that just kept training through there. So they also created a lot of wind damage. Also a lot of wind damage out in eastern Kentucky. One tornado report that was last week. It was a funnel cloud that kind of shockingly dropped down. It wasn't really what we were, a time that you would expect to see one, but we did have one. We did have that flooding, like I alluded to earlier, up in the Harrison, Nicholas County area. And unfortunately, we did have a fatality where a house got washed away by a flooding stream. So again, a pretty active month, lots of flooding, lots of wind damage. And talking about the whole presentation here, but we did have the flooding event on July 19th in the Purchase area. Basically, we had a stalled out boundary that was running from the northwest to the southeast, and you had a strong low level jet coming in perpendicular to that, and that allowed for thunderstorms to form up and train over that same area, while that low level jet just kept pumping moisture into them. It really started on July 18th around 10 o'clock at night, and really continued till about 10 a.m. noon on the 19th, but most of that fell between midnight and 10 a.m. You can see they had a corridor of 6 to 12 inches of rainfall that was roughly 25 miles wide and 90 miles long, that started in southern Illinois and went through the Purchase area. Graves County Mesonet Station recorded 11.28 inches of rain in a 24-hour period, which broke the old state record by 0.8 inches. That old record was set at in Louisville during the March 1st storm in 1997, which was a huge event for the entire state. So it broke it by a lot too. So it was pretty impressive. And I should mention that Mesonet station also was the same Mesonet station that recorded, I believe it was 108 mile per hour wind gust when the tornado came through. And for about an hour or so, that was actually the highest wind gust ever recorded in the state. It was surpassed when the tornado hit the Caldwell County Mesonet station. So the station has set two different records within a span of 2 years. That's pretty impressive. I think Jerry might need to go give it an award or something for breaking so many records. And they did have a personal station near Fancy Farm that recorded over 12.5 inches of rain. So a lot of rain fell. You can see there at the top right, that white area is 10 to 15 inches of precipitation, radar estimated. And you can see lots of the streams and small rivers in the area obviously jumped up with that much rain. Caused a lot of flooding. And even the Ohio River at Cairo jumped 5 feet in 24 hours, which is extremely impressive for a river of that size to jump that much that fast. They tend to, the Ohio, especially down there, tends to creep up slowly and drop slowly just because of the large amounts of water it can handle. Here's some pictures of the flooding. See, the picture on the left is Paducah. The picture on the right is Mayfield. Unfortunately, Mayfield, was still recovering from that tornado it was just 19 months earlier. So, really rough, the places that just rebuilt and then flooded again. But the good thing is there were no fatalities. Lots of property damage and agricultural damage, but no fatalities. So that's a good thing. And it should be noted, this event happened almost a year after the Eastern Kentucky flood event, which we just had the anniversary of last week. So, and you can see it's a lot different picture than what we saw in Eastern Kentucky. The topography is a lot different. So Eastern Kentucky, you had all the water just rushing down off those mountains and then hitting those valleys, and you have very steep streams and rivers. So the water goes shooting down those streams and rivers and, wiped out entire communities, not just flooding them, but actually taking the homes and taking them off their foundation. Being much flatter, the water moves a lot slower, has a lot more places to go. So instead of having that fast moving water, you can see that water is not really, it looks pretty calm. So still bad to have that, several feet of water in your house, but not as bad as having the house also washed away. So, and that I have to believe that had a lot to do with not being any fatalities, and also people pay attention. The National Weather Service did a great job the day before, 2 days before, targeting, hey, there heavy rains, be aware. And so getting the information out and stuff also probably played a big role in helping. So ag impacts. If you look on the top left, showing the progress for corn and soybeans and tobacco, everything's moving along pretty good. Maybe just slightly behind the 5-year average, but doing good. Looking at the crop conditions on the top right, you can see single digit numbers for the very poor and poor, which is good. So for the most part, crops are doing pretty decent. And if you look at the bottom left and right, we're showing soybean conditions. On the left there, you can see the blue and red lines are 2020 and 2021 conditions, and those were both bumper crop years. So you can look, this year is the black line and last year is the green line. You can see last year we had a hot, dry or start to the summer in June going into July, and you can see the crops were not doing, or soybeans were not doing good as we get into July, and they finally did recover some. But this year you can see it was also down, but not nearly as much. And you can see they are recovering, but still below 2020 and 2021. But for the most part, doing pretty decent. You can see the soybean conditions are 70% rated as good to excellent, which is up 8 points from last week. So that's good to see. Flipping over to corn, same story. Corn down below where it was in 2020, 2021, but doing much better than last year. And again, they are also at 70% good to excellent. Overall, and one thing we do have to note is in Western Kentucky, where we did have the flooding, corn and soybeans, if they were underwater for more than 24 hours, they're probably going to be a loss. And if the field they were in was flooded for more than 48 hours, they're probably going to be a loss. So it's something for producers out there to have to kind of watch out for. Also, if the field was flooded, you could have problems with stalks being weak. So they're advising that those farmers harvest early to prevent the so the crop, as it dries out, doesn't fall over. Also, talking about, we also need to talk about pastures. We do have a kind of a shortage on hay still. Basically because of last fall, and then again this spring, the first cutting was short. So still a little behind on hay storage. So Matt sent me a thing saying that farmers should start stockpiling hay for the fall and winter, and rely more on the pastures. So that way they can basically extend the the growing season the grazing season a little bit. And then after you take your cattle off the hay or off the pasture, to add a little nitrogen to the pasture to help it recover as we head into the fall. And if I said that wrong, he can correct me. We also, yesterday, Jerry was in northern Fayette County. They introduced the newest mesonet station at Spindletop Farms. This is the 79th station we have going in the state. So making progress. And I believe it was just last month they introduced the 78th station. I believe that was down in Russell County. So adding more stations, that's what we like to see. So let's start looking ahead. Here's the 7-day QPF. You can see a lot of rain, especially in Western Kentucky. And that is looking at today as well. So a lot of that purple and reds in here is what was falling today. Still expecting some more rain this week, but not as significant amounts. Going to be kind of hit or miss, scattered convective thunderstorms through the week. Looking at our 6 to 10 day outlooks, looking like there's above normal chances for below normal temperatures, especially up along the Ohio River. The higher chances are going to be up into the northern plains, but looks like the heat's going to be down in the south, so that's welcome for us. Also looking at slightly higher chances for above normal precipitation continuing the trend of above normal precipitation. The 8 to 14 day looks pretty similar, just on the edge of that above normal chances for below normal temperatures, and that and slightly above normal chances for above normal precipitation. Then going out looking at the entire month of August, they still have still looking at slightly above normal chances for wet conditions, and kind of there on the edge of the above normal temperatures. So may get into some heat for the second half of the month, but hopefully we can keep up the rain. That's always, as long as it's not too much rain, but it's good not being in a drought after being one last fall and again in the spring. Good to be seeing some precipitation. And really the seasonal forecast, August through October, that precipitation kind of has the same look to it, having the bullseye more over Missouri in that area, which is good because they have been in drought, and then extending over our area, showing a little bit more chances for above normal temperatures as we go through the late summer into early fall. And so we have entered into El Nino. That is official now. And you can see the probabilities are extremely high to continue through the winter and into the early spring next year. So that they're extremely confident it's going to continue. And you can see as we get into February, March, April, about a 15% chance of neutral, 0 chance of La Nina returning. So looks like we will have an El Nino. Not sure how strong it's going to be. That's still, I think, up for debate. But could be a strong one. Probably more likely that it's going to be more of a moderate one, but we shall see. The drought forecast for August through October, and you can see they are for our area removing any drought and showing improvements for drought in the Midwest, but forecasting drought development, continued development in the desert Southwest and Texas, and also in the Pacific Northwest. The significant wildfire outlook for August shows a lot of red on the map. The Pacific Northwest, down the deep south, up there in the eastern Appalachian Mountains there, where they're showing some developing dryness on the U.S. Drought Monitor, and also up in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area, but nothing for Kentucky. Interestingly enough, also Hawaii, the entire state of Hawaii has above normal chances. Also looking ahead to October, I saw this and wanted to post it just because it did have Eastern Kentucky in there. I wasn't expecting to see that, but I went and looked at the discussion, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that since they are doing this by region, the concern was, as we're going into our fire season which begins in October, they were focused on that area down in the Black Mountain area being dry, and also some lingering dryness from the spring drought, possibly causing problems elsewhere in Eastern Kentucky. So still a couple months away. So if I would think that if the pattern that we're in continues, and we continue to see above normal chances for precipitation through August and into the rest of early fall, that will get removed, hopefully. But something to keep in mind as we move into fire season in October. So the summary, overall, July was a wet month, but being convective thunderstorms that we typically see this time of year, not everybody saw above normal precipitation. Most of the drought areas in Kentucky have been removed. We still have a couple tiny areas, but so far that's all that remains, and hopefully those will be removed in the near future. We did see the historic rains and widespread flooding in the Purchase region, and we set a new 24-hour precipitation record. We are looking at slightly higher chances for above normal precipitation in August, and despite the dry start to the summer, for some locations, crops look to be good overall, except there's probably some small locations that are having some issues, but overall looking good. And we are in an El Nino, and that is expected to continue through the winter. So just a reminder that the next webinar is on September 7th at the normal time. And if you have any questions outside of here, feel free to contact any of us, Jerry at WKU, Matt at UK, or myself or Bill Caldwell at the Kentucky Division of Water. And if you do have drought impacts, or if you want to report that it's too wet, that's also something you can do. Go to the Drought Impact and Hydrologic Impact Reporter and report those. Those are invaluable to see what conditions are going on across the state. Getting real on the ground information is really helps out a lot. So thank you, and I'll open up to questions. And Matt did have a link in the chat. If you need more information on UK grains and the effects of flooding on corn and soybeans, you can go to that link and get more information. So if you do have questions, feel free yourself or type it into the chat.
Chip, I have a question for Jerry if he's on the channel.
Yeah, hi, Ron.
Hey, Jerry, I know I asked this maybe a year or two ago, and I kind of got an answer that I wasn't super happy with, but I was just wondering, is there any possibility, especially since we've seen many rainfall events that has produced more than 5 inches of rainfall at many of the mesonet sites, that we can get more color detail on that map, especially when you're looking at, the 48 hours, stuff like that. I mean, I was told that the reason is they wanted to keep the color scheming uniform across all the products, but I think the range should be increased to give that additional detail on the heavy rain events. I know we don't use the colors blue, pink, gray. There is room for those to be added. I was just wondering on your thoughts on that.
No, that's a great point, and we've been talking a lot about that, especially since this last event, and we're about to release a lot of new products on the web, and that has been well, we haven't quite figured out how we want to present the scale, and I think you're right. I think that I mean, other mezzanettes have run into this too, because inevitably we want to show maps for totals for the week and the month and the last hour, and those have different ranges. So on the other hand, some people like to compare those and keep the same range. So I don't know if we can make it dynamic or not, but and then with this flooding event here, we had this big blob of black indicating above, I forget the range, but above a certain amount, and beyond that you couldn't really see the details. So yeah, we totally agree, and I think we just need to figure out what range we want for what products, and then go from there. But yeah, we hope to start releasing those new products within, I'd say, the next month or so. And Ron, we'll put you on our list of folks to get your opinion from. So we'll be reaching out.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, we have any more questions?
Tip, this is a little bit of old news, but I'm kind of curious if you've heard from the ag folks, or maybe this is a question for some others on the call, Matt, but about this time last month, we were dealing with a lot of the smoke from Canada, and in talking with some of the climate offices to the north, they were seeing some new pests being blown down from Canada that they don't normally see. And the haze, the smoke was really causing some, I guess, unusual impacts on, say, tomatoes and some of the crops. And I was just curious if we'd seen much in Kentucky as far as impacts on agriculture.
I haven't heard anything, but I'll defer to Matt. He's probably heard more than me.
Me either, but I will say, hold on, I'm looking for it right now. Let's see, can't remember his name. I think it's Bob Nielsen. Yeah, he was the crop specialist up at Purdue for quite a while, and now it is Dan Quinn. But he put out a pretty good article on the potential impacts of wildfire smoke on corn growth, and I'm going to paste that into the chat. I haven't had a real good chance to read it all, but there it is if anyone is interested. So
Yeah, thanks, Matt. That's really helpful. I had read that in some sense you're replacing your direct irradiation with indirect, and that was having some unusual impacts on the plant growth, and so I think this probably spells out some of what I'd been told.
at the end of the day, I mean, reading through this article real quick and just experience, yeah, impact's very minimal.
Yeah, it's more just curiosity as much as anything.
I mean, I mean, it's different. I guess we experienced this, what was it, last year or the year before? But I believe that was a different time of the year. But just looking back, I mean, since I've been at UK in 2012, I don't ever remember seeing wildfire smoke like we've seen this year. I mean, I know I talked about it in last month's webinar. Here on UK's campus, it was the most haze I've ever seen. And I would say the most haze I've ever seen in my life from wildfire smoke. So, but anyways, yeah, something, at least me, I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. So,
Yeah, I think the only thing I can remember that was close to it was, I guess that was 2016 when you had the Gatlinburg fires, and we had a bunch of fires in southern Kentucky as well. But that was more, I mean, you could smell the smoke, and that was more ground level haze, not smoke from, hundreds and hundreds of miles away that was, up high and creating haze. So that was a little different.
very true, Chip. Yep.
All right. Well, if nobody has any more questions, guess we will call it a day. Thank you everybody for attending, and we will see you next month.
Thanks, Chip. Thanks everyone for joining us. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.